Welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe.
You're listening to Mystic Moon Cafe. The views and opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the network, or our sponsors.
And welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe. We are live tonight with Cindy McKean of Kansas City Astrology and Tarot. And due to a bit of how the sinuses are affecting all of us, she decided to not go video, but that's all right. We can see her name, and and we'll be going live on Facebook momentarily as well. So we got the awesome technomancer Jacob Rice in the room.
How you doing?
And hopefully chat works for everybody. We're trying. Jake is busy working on that right now as we speak.
Okay.
I like it.
So Facebook's about to go live.
Okay.
It's preparing the stream. We are being live streamed. Hi, Facebook.
Hello, Facebook. Welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe. I have to add the cafe or I could get in trouble for certain copyrights or something along those lines. But all right. Well, we'll get started here. We've got Cindy in the house. And Cindy, are you still traveling? Are you home? How are things going this year?
I'm home. I'm going to be doing more traveling this year, but I don't have long-term things planned. So I just feel happy to be able to travel again because I'm still trying to make up for what we couldn't do in 2020. Even though 2 years later.
Right. It got a little messy for a little bit.
Yeah. And it's honestly, I always like to travel nowadays by car because, from what I'm seeing and what gets reported back, traveling by plane is almost like the new Greyhound. So, with some of the unsavory or colorful characters that I don't really want to deal with. So in my car, at least I'm alone. I'm allowed to meditate or listen to my music or think or flip the bird to someone who cut me off. So
right. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is live streaming on Spreaker. I can see that. Yep.
And the website and the Facebook.
Well, I'm sorry. I had to reboot the. Not reboot. I had to refresh the browser.
I hate that about the browser. It depends on the browser you use. Sometimes it lets you go live immediately. Sometimes you got to refresh your browser. But if you're listening and you're looking at the website or you're on Spreaker, hit refresh. It's streaming.
That's right.
Perfect.
If you can hear us, yeah. But anyway, Jake, how are the puppies? I know you have several puppies.
I do. If folks didn't know, in November, I got 3 puppies. They're all 4 months old. So now they're all 4 months old. So the house is chaos. Do not be surprised if you hear that's Derby.
Okay. All right.
Good to make sure it's Derby and not you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you hear "moof," the big "moof" man beast sound, that's Mikey. He probably wants to go outside.
Okay.
Those are the 2 that make the sounds.
Nice.
Didn't one of your dogs have like a polyp or something and he needed surgery?
Yeah, so that was Wally. The story with Wally, he passed away on October 15th. He was diagnosed with nasal polyps. And I didn't know COVID impacted the veterinarian world so much. And so he was diagnosed in early September and all the tests came back benign. So he got a MRI surgery date in early November. But when his nose started to bleed, I pushed to get it moved up earlier, and the best I could do was October 27th. And anyway, it turned cancerous, and it killed him very quickly.
Jeez, yeah, probably went right to the brain. If it's
Yeah. So, and I had been going to the emergency vet so often, they moved it up to October 19th, but it was still too late for Wally.
Wow. God rest his soul.
And my little boy, let me tell you.
Send up a little.
To hear that.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And so my other half and I were just, we didn't plan on adopting a bunch of dogs right away, but it's the kind of thing, especially if you have pit bulls, if you can save one, you can save 6 to 12 through the whole rescue chain. And we've got a big yard. We've got 2.5 acres that's fenced. Wow. So we're like, okay, we'll get 3 puppies and open up a big chunk of fosters and stuff along the way. Wow. So that's what we did.
Nice.
Thank you.
McMenamin is in the chat room here, and he's sending his condolences to you, Jake.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, McMenamin.
And anyway, well, Cindy, shall we head on into our discussion this evening and maybe see what you've been seeing in the stars?
Sure. And maybe it make it easier for anybody that's in the chat. I guess Jake is going to be overlooking questions from the Facebook Live. I'll be looking for questions from Spreaker, and Wendy will be looking at it from the website. So we'll all announce the questions as they come and knock them out that way. This would be fun because it's more interactive.
Oh, absolutely.
3 avenues.
Woohoo!
Isn't that cool?
I love the technology. That's streaming everywhere. Gotta get that damn YouTube to work, though, let me tell you.
Here's to Jake.
Oh, I love the Ouija box. I need the Ouija copy. I'm ordering that.
Does it change colors as it gets hotter or colder?
It's a funny pottery, or maybe it sounds like pottery, but I got it at Joanne's Fabrics.
And if Joanne's Fabrics would like to sponsor us, you can send that request to jakecashmoneydollars@gmail.com.
Indeed.
I will put that money to good use.
Woohoo! Ooh.
I got 5 dogs now, damn it.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Betty White would be very proud of you.
Yes. And I did give on her birthday to the Betty White challenge. I gave to the rescue I got Wally from.
Oh.
Yeah, I was sad to see that she died because I saw that she was supposed to have a huge birthday party for her 100th birthday. But honestly, it's kind of nice when she passed away because she's more legendary to go right before this benchmark was supposed to occur. You know, I think it's just more, we lost someone good, but she'll definitely be remembered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You're everyone's grandma, Betty White.
That's right. And say hi to Grandpa. You guys died on the same day, different years. But
God rest Grandpa's soul.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I do miss them. I miss my grandparents a lot.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough when yeah. Well,
yeah,
we're in Mercury retrograde. Oh, no. It's okay. No, we're good. I know it's all about love.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So we're in Mercury retrograde now.
Mm-hmm.
It started on Friday, January 14th, and it moves into Capricorn on the 25th. And whenever we have a Mercury retrograde, what Mercury is the planet of communication, transportation, transactions, and the way you think and the way, so communications of all kinds. So typing, writing, talking, yada, yada. You could expect delays. You could expect setbacks. You could expect confusion. And you should really back up your computers and your technology, because there's going to be a lot of glitches. And, the world won't end, at least so long we make it to February 3rd.
Okay.
And yeah, good not to sign agreements on those during Mercury retrograde unless it's, something that you're redoing. So basically, Mercury retrograde is more about backtracking, and it's more about redoing, reviewing, anything not really resting so much, but anything with doing over again. And, sometimes the curse of the Mercury retrograde is that it's, people just like to move forward. Mercury likes to move forward. Mercury doesn't like to have to go back and have to redo things. So a lot of people could blame Mercury if you want to. And Mercury is just kind of like, nah, 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 nah. Okay, whatever. So, yeah, go ahead.
McMinimum is asking, why do they call this phenomenon Mercury retrograde?
Oh, because Mercury in the sky. So we're the center of the universe, right?
Right.
According to astrology. Yes. If we're using geocentric, Earth-centric astrology. And we could track the planets in the sky simply by just looking up at the sky on a clear night and seeing, how they move day to day. Just kind of like you could watch the sunrise and sunset. You could watch planets do that. Of course, Mercury is not as quick, but you could predict the path that it's going to follow. And what happens is a phenomenon in the sky where all of a sudden it stations. It stops moving forward for a day, and then it starts moving backwards. And that used to freak out the ancients, because how does something like that suddenly move backwards when everything's always moving in the same direction? So they started recording the event, and they started noticing how their caravans might be a little bit delayed, that there's, the misclarity with communication. They might lose a camel or a horse or something, someone from their caravan. Transactions went awry sometimes, like just dealing with whatever mode they used to trade with. And that's how they determine Mercury retrograde. That's the answer, McMenamin. Rico Rogan on Spreaker asks, how many times a year does this happen? Sometimes 3 to 4 times a year, usually. Thank you, Rico.
But actually all the planets do hit a retrograde, correct?
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that with the outer planets, so those would be like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, that those are generational, because they tend to stay in retrograde for a much longer time. Like they could go on for months and months. Pluto is a pain in the neck type of retrograde, because it goes forward and retrogrades, direct and retrograding, 5 times within the same area. So if in your chart, it's going over an angle like a horizon or a meridian,
mm-hmm.
Or it's hitting a major planet in your chart, my God, you're going to feel those changes in your life, like you can't believe. But if it's not hitting those areas and it's not aspecting any of your planets, it would just be like a trend type of change that you'll notice in society. It won't be affecting you as much. But, it's like I know someone that was going through their Pluto retrograde over the descendant. The descendant is an angle. That's the part of the chart where, the sun, well, in the sky, that's where the sun sets at night. And in the chart, what it means is it's other people, it's relationships, it's the people that you deal with. And this person went through a lot of tax problems because Pluto rules taxes and other people's money. They had great sex because Pluto brings in sex, but the person also acquired a stalker through, and so it's all about obsessiveness as well. And, stalkers, sometimes you've seen shows like, Who the F Did I Marry? Or, so it's like, who the F did I bring into my bed?
Right.
And, just the way it, you all hear when you talk to somebody about, that one person in life that, they used to be happy and go lucky. And then they met this person, they had this whole tragic relationship, and just their outlook and their approach towards relationships have changed ever since then. So it's been, you might want to look and see, is that a Pluto, conjunction or some kind of aspect that's hitting their chart. Usually it's not so severe. When we see Pluto on the other side of the chart doing things like that, again, it usually leads to major transformations of how you approach people. But all the planets retrograde, and except for the sun and the moon, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right now, we're also in a Venus retrograde. So that's been in retrograde since December 19th. And Venus is about love. It's about beauty. It's about femininity. It's abundance. It's relationships in general. So when Venus goes retrograde, it's harder. It's a little more dicier to navigate through relationships. So if you're in an active relationship that started outside of a Venus retrograde, there might be, again, some misunderstandings, not really fights so much because Venus doesn't like to fight, but, sore nerves. But it's also a time where if you haven't communicated enough, it could be a great time for opening up. So Venus retrograde sometimes is not as dicey as, say, the Mercury retrograde that could trip people up. And also, Venus is also about money. So it might be a frustrating time to collect outdated invoices, to go back and see how you're spending. Are you spending too much on nail polish or things that would make, your clothes the way that you would dress yourself up, or your chocolates, your wine, and it's, I would say that when you got Mercury and Venus retrograde, you can imagine, if relationship starts during this time, usually those relationships don't survive. They break up by the end of the retrograde or shortly after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's, it does go direct on Saturday, the 29th of this month. And so a few days later, on Thursday, February 3rd, Mercury retrograde ends. So if you had your eye on somebody that decided that they're going forward with you, and then they're like, oh, you know what, I met somebody else, and you still kind of carry a torch for that person, very likely that you'll hear back from them around February 4th or 5th or something, interested in you again. So that's your discretion whether or not you want to go for someone that took you as a sloppy second. But
right. Pass. Yeah.
Right.
You had your shot. You blew it.
Right. Suddenly your sex appeal goes back up, after
Right. And then Pluto goes back retrograde and you've got 50 Shades of Doggy Style, right?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, just wait. I just discovered this term. It's from this is from modernsalon.com, and they're talking, this astrologer, her name is Lisa Stardust. She's on Oprah, and she's talking about Mercury retro shade.
Oh, yeah.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, those are for the passive aggressive folks.
Okay.
Yeah. I like Lisa Stardust. She does come up with pretty original ideas, like the retro shade. So I don't know too if she's talking about the Mercury retrograde shadow, and that is after, that happens before and after the retrogrades. Mm-hmm. The shadow period is kind of like, it's okay. Imagine that you're walking and then you slip and fall. All right. And pretend that fall is the Mercury retrograde. And then you get up So that's like the station. And then you start walking again. And that's Mercury going direct. But, you know, at the beginning, you're going to be kind of shaky as you're walking and a little bit like maybe unstable or getting your balance back. So that's like a shadow period, essentially. She might be talking about that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
she's talking 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after.
Oh, okay. So the shadow period. So she just returned it. See, she is cool like that. Yeah. And, you know, they always say when there is a retrograde of a fast moving planet, so that would be Venus, Mercury, Mars, measure twice, cut once. You know, it's all about not being hasty.
Okay.
Now, there's some people that are born with Mercury retrograde in their chart, and some astrologers say that they're immune to Mercury retrograde. And that's just, I mean, they're not exactly immune. They're just better at handling Mercury retrogrades because they live it in their charts. And it's kind of like if you grew up in a household with like, you know, 10 brothers and sisters, and you're used to things kind of being chaotic, and then you go to work and, you know, it's kind of chaotic at work, and it doesn't affect that one person. And you can't say they're actually immune to it. It's just that, you know, they're used to it, right? So
right.
And the effects of Mercury retrograde usually, you know, so that's the shadow period. They kick in a couple of weeks before the planet begins to really move backwards. And the cleanup is 2 weeks after. Personally, you know, a lot of people ask me as an astrologer how I handle it. And usually I like to just back up things before, before we, back up on my computer, because I've just kind of lived my life and like, I'm not going to let this Mercury retrograde rule me and tell me what to do, only to find out that, you know, my computer's crashed right before I have to make a call, or my check got lost in the mail, you know, that kind of silly thing. And so what I do is I'm always mindful to just make sure there's a backup, and I have like, you know, because I do a lot of readings over the phone. So I have like, you know, my modem, my hotspot, and my cellular to make sure that just in case one doesn't work, and I have two headphones on, and yeah.
I work in tech, and I don't even do that much backup.
Well, it's kind of, you know, it's really unpleasant when, you know, and it's in the middle of a reading and Mercury retrograde strikes, because imagine it's like, you know, hey, how are things going to end up at work with me? And it's like, well, you know, I see that your boss is going to be leaving, and then they call you into HR and all of a sudden, like, the line drops because of Mercury retrograde, and people are like, what? They call me for what? You know? Like,
oh no!
Are they going to cash me out?
Right.
Did I clear my browser history?
I have my browser to self-destruct if anything happens to me.
You and me both.
How does it know if anything happens to you?
You know, I'll rig a program to say, Jake has not touched his keyboard in 15 minutes. Destroy Chrome. Because it's like my keyboard is stuck to my hand. I'm always on
You could have your smartwatch saying not recording heartbeat. You know?
Exactly. Alexa, destroy everything in my house. Oh, it activated. Just a moment.
Oh.
Oh my God.
She's always listening.
Always.
So you could get silly things too, like typos or Freudian slips. Decision-making skills might not be as clear because, you know, the Mercury rules thinking. And, you know, little skills could be muddled, like sewing, for instance. Things where you need to be nimble might be muddled. Or, you know, if you're using your chopsticks, you're going to be choppy with your chopsticks, and drop your sushi and upset the floor. Maybe not the dogs. They'll be happy to get, unless they don't like
It depends on
what's
the
that green
wasabi.
stuff? The wasabi there. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
the
I can't believe
wasabi,
I
yeah.
forgot. I was gonna say matcha.
That will
But
be an
girl.
interesting experience in 45 minutes, let me tell you. Not that
Oh
I've
yeah.
done it.
Oh yeah. Gas masks are
Mhm.
required at that point.
Mhm.
Oh really?
Mhm. Especially you got pit bulls.
Oh boy.
Or puppies, or
And puppies, yeah.
When pit bulls go mad and you find out it's all about the wasabi.
Yes. When pit bulls poot. Yes.
Deathane gas.
Yes. We digress.
Yes, we do. Sorry about that. That never happens on our show, ever.
Never.
And,
So the other thing too, especially with this Mercury retrograde, with Venus retrograde, is expect people from the past, expect especially former lovers to get in touch, to resurface, and why? Because it's a poor decision sometimes that, an ex might want to get in touch with you if it's ended poorly. And, they sign up like, hey, it's been a long time. Yeah. You just want to slap them across the face. Yeah. I only broke your heart. What's the big deal? Like, you're still alive. Yeah, right.
right. Not for long.
Unless you're cruising for a bruising, right?
Right. No, I found out that I'm pretty powerful when it comes to cursing people to a rather unpleasant end.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Let's write a spell book. I'm just saying.
Or maybe I was just foretelling the future. That could be it too.
Yes, like, I see you're gonna die.
Mhm.
Right.
Horribly, screaming in pain, choking on your own vomit.
Oh boy.
So note to self, Wendy, Mercury retrograde, Black Widow. Right.
Yeah.
Call up the vultures. Right?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, what are some of the other characteristics of the retrograde? Say, Saturn, maybe.
Saturn retrograde is about discipline. Saturn retrograde is to come back and say, hey, you didn't do your homework, and here it is, and you're not moving forward until you finish this. You're not moving to the next grade. And I don't mind Saturn retrogrades in general. I think that they're really excellent for giving you a second chance. Saturn often gets a bad rap. I had Saturn going retrograde in my chart on my descendant, so that hits a major angle. And it was kind of crazy how that happened, because that's when I had to have my jaw locked. I had a surgery and then I had my jaw locked. So it was like I could not communicate with people. But, it's funny because it's dealing with bone. It's dealing with how I interact with others. Mm-hmm. And essentially, it was basically forcing me to take a rest and forcing me to deal with an issue that needed to, it's bone. It had to be taken care of immediately. Right. But guess what else it did? If it hits a descendant or an ascendant, and sometimes if it hits if it hits in the midheaven, like the high noon part, I got to lose weight. And then I said,
right.
This is pretty cool. And then it retrograded. I got to lose even more weight. And as it moved forward, Saturn said, okay, you did your job and you changed your lifestyle as far as your eating habits and how you move forward with your health. So we're good. We're going to move forward from now. So that's an example of what Saturn would do. Usually it affects your area of work and areas of self-discipline in general, and bones, of course. So if you get if you have some kind of dental issue, you might expect to have to go back to the dentist to get it redone around that time.
But the good thing about having your jaw wired shut You can drink more wine.
Right?
My spouse elf brought me a little cheer. Okay, back we go.
Oh, that was very nice. Now, Dominic Cardinal, I think I said that right. He is asking, how can we deal with Mercury retrograde when it happens?
I think the best way is pretty simple. So just double check, proofread. Before you send that email, reread it. Sometimes you might have someone else read it if it really is important. It's better maybe to avoid signing a contract around that time, but it's kind of silly to put your life on hold during a whole Mercury retrograde. So make sure that you review them extra diligently, especially with contracts, and have somebody else look it up. Back up your data. Make sure that if you're traveling, you have your extra supplies or water. See, your Mercury retrograde is giving me hiccups now as I'm talking. I'm blaming Mercury. So
have some wine, wash it down.
Yeah, right. I should get some. Plan for travel mishaps and delays. Like, don't think it's the end of the world. Like, if your plane gets canceled, that's just, it's interesting because the shadow period of Mercury retrograde this year, do you guys remember what happened? So Mercury retrograde started on the 29th, but 2 weeks previous. Do you guys remember?
That would be December 15th.
Yeah, around the middle of the month to the end. Remember all those flights that got canceled around Christmas?
Oh, yeah. With the COVID outbreak, the surge, all that stuff,
yeah.
The first wave of it.
Yeah. So, and that spilled over a week. And that was when it was time to like redo, rebook, retravel, right? And so in some ways, maybe not all so bad, right? I do have, you're going to laugh at this, but I do know somebody that was supposed to travel during retrograde for Christmas to see their family. And they were so relieved that they had the best excuse ever. Like, hey, I tried to get to you, but the planes are canceled. What can I do?
Damn the bad luck. Yeah.
So sometimes, these are really blessings, but really it isn't all so bad. We can't allow astrology to micromanage our lives. I think it's nice to use it to forecast and to to see what you could expect around, like, okay, so Mercury retrograde's happening, doesn't mean I should cancel my trip, but I will plan for a delay, a snafu, a mishap, a misunderstanding. That's basically.
Okay, so I have a question then during this period, because at work, I co-host. I have a segment on a show that we do, and it's very popular with our audience. So I pitched turning my 3-minute segment into a 20-minute like podcast episode or little radio show type thing. What does Mercury retrograde do to, say, pitching and creative efforts?
Well, if it was your first time doing it, you're probably going to be able to look at it and see, how did this work out? Did it have an effect? What could I do better? That's how it would affect it.
Okay.
What could I do better, especially? Not that it would, because usually it just wouldn't work out so magically the first time around during a Mercury retrograde.
Okay. I did actually, when I did the pitch, when I said I wrote up my nice little letter, my one-sheeter about why the show, but I said at the end of it in the email, not the pitch sheet itself, but it's like, if not, okay, what has to be worked on? So I asked for the feedback if it gets rejected.
Very nice. Okay. Very good. Sometimes you might also find it's funny during Mercury retrograde, people are not paying attention. So sometimes that's a good time to really go and do something a first time like that. And if if you do something like make a fool out of yourself during the pitch or whatever, you could be like, oh man, I could sweep this under the carpet pretty easily.
Yeah, luckily it's written. You're right. It's written. It's written. There's a paper trail. There's a paper trail. Damn it! It's like those taxes going bad. There's a paper trail.
What was it? Friday. I was here at home and phone rings and some guy goes, "You called me. Who is this?" And he introduces himself, and I said, "I've been here with my phone most of the day. I have not made a phone call." "Well, it says you did." I said, "Well, I guess Mercury retrograde hit." He's like, and hangs up. Yeah, okay.
I gotta say, out of the blue, I got a weird phone call with a 1 minute, 19-second long voicemail. So this is to my work phone and work for a tech company. So, there's no hiding who sent it. And then it transcribed the voicemail for me so I could read it. And it was all about coming out and doing the COVID HVAC air filtering thing, 500% more pure. Filtration than normal filtration, air filter. I'm just like, what is this bullshit that I'm being fed?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're supposed to, I think it was like, what is it? The covidtest.gov. And you could sign up now to get those 4 free kits. And I mean, they say they're going to mail it like within 7 to 12 days. Good luck. I know. I wonder if they're waiting for the Mercury retrograde to finish. Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
It goes into the USPS and then things happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up getting the COVID from the USPS. I'm joking, people. I'm joking.
Well, they're saying that now, apparently. I read this somewhere that they were saying in China that things that get shipped in from America have COVID, so beware.
Oh, now.
I'm like, if it's been on the boat that long, it's dead by the time it gets there.
If it originated like here, it was 10 below zero last night with the wind chill. It's dead.
It's dead. We've been having lovely weather in the Pacific Northwest for this time of the year, so it's alive.
Oh, no.
Not that we're freaking anyone out here and that they need to get anxiety meds. Not that we're
don't. I take them and I feel so much better for the effort.
There's the new thing I guess you're coming out with now, and that kind of affects communication in some ways, is that government's also going to be giving out free N95 masks coming up soon.
We ordered them. Yep. We ordered them yesterday. I
saw that on something.
Oh, I didn't know that you could order it already.
Yep. The website went up on Wednesday.
For the masks? Oh.
Yep. We ordered them. They said we should have them in 5 to 7 days.
Can you drop a link for the website, Jay?
Oh, it's my other half did it, but here, I'll just do
sorry. Okay.
I'll just do a quick 1 moment. N95 masks, government websites. Because, if our taxpayers already paid for them, hey, we might as well take them.
Might as well.
Yeah.
How did they stockpile 400 million masks?
I mean, they were printing them for a while there to get 400 million, considering the country has 330 million people in it, right?
Right.
Talk amongst yourselves while I look.
All right, we'll talk amongst. Now,
go
ahead, please.
Okay, so Mercury retrograde in 2022 is going to occur 4 times. So right now we're in the first one. The next one is May 10th to June 3rd. And the one after that is September 9th to October 2nd. And then the final one is at the tippy end of the year, December 29th until January 18th, 2023. So it would be interesting if next year we see a similar thing where Christmas is kind of canceled, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are the Mercury retrograde dates. So we could get Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter retrograde would end up being, so Jupiter is all about expansion. So it would be the reverse of expansion, like kind of a retraction in some ways, or where things don't just seem to be spreading as benevolently or optimistically or luckily as it usually does. Luck, bounty, happiness, or these are traits of Jupiter.
Okay.
Extra money, travel. So when it is retrograde, we might feel less optimistic, or sometimes it depends on the sign. It makes people a little bit overly optimistic, and too much of anything is obviously never good. So we feel those vibes become really more pronounced, during the retrograde, that, you just generally, I would think that if you're doing long distance travel, because Jupiter is more long distance travel, that would end up being delayed or totally delayed, like rescheduled altogether. Like, just, okay, I can't go, during my Christmas vacation, so I'll go during Easter, that kind of thing. Excellent time though, during these retrogrades for Jupiter and Mercury to study foreign languages, because learning languages is all about repeating them. And those are going to be ways to where you could really just go back and really study it like a couple more times and have it down pat. So definitely take that, Spanish for Travelers book in your hand during that time. I think that would be good.
Okay, I can confirm we actually ordered the COVID-19 tests, the rapid tests. It wasn't the masks.
Okay.
All right, that makes sense.
Though we do have N95 masks here. We have them.
Good deal.
Earlier.
Dominic is asking, should we not order these masks during Mercury retrograde?
That's a really good question, Dominic.
That's what I thought so too. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Because we could get the cheap Chinese stuff.
You mean the ones that we that were sent to China from us and resent back because they're rejecting anything that comes touched by Americans?
Of course.
I would say just go ahead and do it. And if it doesn't come in, you're just going to have to re-sign up for those masks when their Mercury goes direct. That's a really good question, honestly. I don't have the best of answers, but yeah. You could also find too that if you're one of those people that works in the gig economy, that Mercury retrograde might be a good time to actually use, like, to double up on some of your gigs, simply because it's that redoing, it's that ability to take on more sometimes. But just understand that you're just going to have to be very careful when doing it, just so you don't. Oh, and watch your GPS, because the GPS too would, just know your streets well. It's kind of funny because now with GPS, it's like, we used to go on instinct, and now we just like, well, what's it say? So.
Right. I got led a bit astray today, going to a meet and greet with some new puppies, and I got there, but it was the long way around.
Aw.
Well, you talked about puppies, so now we need the details on the puppies.
Oh, well, there is an 18-month-old German Shepherd pup, and he is as tall as Augie, if not taller, basically. And he of course, he loved his Auntie Wendy right away, and sat right next to me, and basically his head was almost under my armpit, and he's very tall. And then there was a little
Aw.
cocker and a Belgian Malinois. And
Oh, a Belgian Malinois.
yes.
Oh.
And she was very sweet too.
Mhm.
I was happy because sometimes they are maligators.
Mhm. So, Cindy, I got a weird question since, you're talking to some major pet lovers here. How do
Okay.
these retrogrades affect the relationships within the pack and, say, with their human owners or as, strange dogs, other animals? How does retrograde even have an effect on animals?
Yes, it does. It has an effect on every living thing. Some of them respond a little bit better because let's face it, some animals are higher consciousness than us. We're more animals than them.
Mhm.
So I could give you an example. My cats are a whole lot more chatty now. Yeah, they're a lot more communicative. Like, hey, stupid! I said feed me. You know, yeah. Um, and so you might hear with your dogs like barking more, for
Mhm.
instance. You might see them squabble a bit more with each other too. Just mixed signals as far as like one dog maybe might look like he's grimacing at another dog, and all of a sudden it ends up being a fight. All right.
Got to watch
But
body language.
exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and I noticed with pets too during Mercury retrograde, at least a lot of feedback that I've been getting is that they tend to do these sneak attacks during sleep. So if one pet is sleeping and the other one is up, it's like, great, this is the perfect time to pounce. So you might notice that happen a little bit more. Yeah. It's I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's one of the things.
Well, yeah, well, I've
I
got
get
the
reported.
puppies right now, so whenever they see each other, it's pounce.
Svetlana has a good question here. Is Mercury retrograde dependent on where you live? Her family in Russia, is it Mercury retrograde there too?
Yeah, it's Mercury retrograde on all of Earth because that magical dome in the sky is something that we rotate under. So definitely we're going to feel it during that 24-hour period. Now, in locational astrology, when we cast lines on the Earth of the planetary orbits, or to see where they were on an angle, and you live on like say that you live on a Mercury line during Mercury retrograde, it definitely will be more amplified. But I mean, you could live in a cave and it's going to affect you. So yeah,
True.
so it affects
Okay.
everybody. There's nowhere to run unless you go to Mercury itself.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of tough. That'd be really hot, right?
Living in a cave?
No, going to the planet Mercury to avoid Mercury retrograde because you're riding on the planet. You can take a
Interesting.
spaceship to it.
I'll bring my SPF 5 billion for that.
There you go. There you go.
So I see anonymous dude on Spreaker is asking if I was on Mercury, the planet Mercury, I'm guessing, would Mercury retrograde still happen? Well, no. It would happen to Earth, but it's still moving forward. It just appears to move backwards in the sky. So the answer is no there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think if you're on a different planet too, because the perspective of space is different according to the planet that you're on. Mercury retrograde would occur during different times of the year, according to the planet that you're on.
Sure.
And might not occur at all according to some planets because the perspective just won't see Mercury tracking in that way. Like if you were on the sun, Mercury definitely would not be retrograde.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you were on the moon, yes, it would be retrograde.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how might these affect, say, would they at all affect, say, a paranormal investigation, the energies in the house, or all of Jake's toys and gadgets?
So definitely the gadgets and the instruments that you use might go awry or get wonky. The battery might drain a lot faster. The messages where, God forbid it says kill Wendy, and actually it's saying save Wendy,
I won't eat her soul, I swear.
Oh, I'd have to have one for you to be able to.
Good point. Very good point.
It could turn some of your gadgets on. So, it could be like you're right in the middle of an investigation and all of a sudden, the alarm on your phone decides to go on even though you didn't program it to. So, just little tricks like that. Now, as far as the energies are concerned, those energies will have a hard time expressing themselves to you. So if it's like the message comes out a little bit blurry. It will come out a little bit indistinguished. Now, if it's an energy that would knock things over, I don't think it would affect that kind of energy. It just might make it a little less weak. So it could hit a book on the shelf, but not necessarily knock it off the shelf. So that would be more of a Mercury retrograde. You might find that people that were supposed to show up for, your team, all of a sudden, you might find that they're not, people are late.
Oh, they ghosted us.
Yeah, exactly. Or they come up, they come at the wrong time. They come to the wrong address that the GPS shows up incorrectly. So that's how it would affect. It doesn't, I don't think it would really affect evil so much. That's, evil just would be able to permeate, as does true love. So
true
those are
love?
the two. Yeah. Like, love that's pure and clean, not like,
oh no, right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I was doing Princess Bride reference. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
As my CGM keeps alerting my insulin pump, and I know I'm not that low, so it's misfiring. Exactly.
Retrograde.
Yep.
This is interesting. I'm on bustle.com.
Yes.
And there's an article about Mercury retrograde and which astrology signs it will impact the most.
Yeah.
And this is written by Brittany Behringer. She wrote it on January 12th. And she says that these that will be burnt by mercurial mayhem will include, I kind of like that language there.
I do too, yeah.
And just so you know, I'm not an astrology expert, so the stuff but I'm just going to read it anyway. The signs are
okay.
Taurus. So Taurus will Capricorn, Aquarius. Those three.
Interesting that she mentions Taurus, Capricorn, and Aquarius. It should really. Okay, so hello to Bustle. I write for them a lot. Anyway,
oh, okay.
So pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, so this Mercury retrograde is going through Aquarius. We're right in Aquarius. We just started Aquarius yesterday. The sun went into the sign of Aquarius. And it moves retrograde into Capricorn because Capricorn was the one that we just came out of.
Okay.
So it would really affect Aquarius and Capricorn most. Really, what we have to do is look at the degree that Mercury is affecting. And let me see what degree it went on because I don't know.
Okay. So while you're checking that up, I'll just read a summary of what she said for Taurus specifically, because that seems to be the odd one out here.
Yeah.
It's the zodiac sign ruled by House of Finances and Money. You can expect tension to rise in the workplace, especially. Breaches of your house of career, as well as your house of philosophy, challenging you to decide whether your public image or career is in alignment with your personal beliefs. It's a big shakeup. And this is a quote from Lauren Donaldson. You love the status quo, and this Mercury retrograde is making a trine to Uranus, the planet of disruption. expect the unexpected. These two planets are bringing major shifts and changes to your life right now, so hold on tight. That's the quote for Taurus.
Okay, so Uranus right now is in Taurus, and I think it just went direct recently. So as Uranus goes direct and it's getting hit by the Mercury retrograde, I think that's where they're thinking it's going to hit Taurus in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it goes by the degree of what Mercury, so right now it starts, let me see, it goes retrograde at 10 degrees in 20 minutes, and it turns direct at 24 degrees. So really, it's those people that have any planet in their chart at 10 degrees that would be affected most. So if you have a sun in Taurus at 10 degrees, you're definitely going to be affected by this Mercury retrograde.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever your sun sign is, anything, any planet that you have at 10 degrees will be affected by it. But especially if it's making something like a trine, in other words, 120 degrees away, an opposition, which is 180 degrees away, a square 90 degrees away, or a sextile 60 degrees away.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I mean, if it hits a certain number, it would, you would feel that area of your life so affected. So say you have sun in Libra at 10 degrees, and your sun in the house is, say, in the fourth house. That's where it was when you were born, let's pretend. So you could definitely expect something in your home to be disrupted. Maybe the mail to your house, the mailman just might not deliver it, or might not make it, or misses the mailbox, UPS, things that are the Amazon deliveries to your home, that you would find maybe, general transactions, if you work from home, how that would even affect you even more. If it's in the house of money, especially, which would be the second house, for instance, it would especially affect you because Mercury is about transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So, we look at it more detailed that way, not just looking at it by signs, unless we're looking at the sign that Mercury is traveling through. So in this case, Aquarius and Capricorn.
Okay. And then just as a follow-up question, because I'm curious about this, with Taurus being affected, if you have your moon in Taurus and you've got this Mercury retrograde, does that mean emotional craziness or not really related?
No, related for sure.
Okay.
Confusion, hysteria, even. But it's moon in Taurus, right? So
my moon is in Taurus. Yeah.
Okay, so if let's pretend it's at 10 degrees, there's going to be eruptions. There's going to be a lot of screaming, a lot of shout. I mean, Taurus is the bull in the china shop.
Okay.
Once things break, yeah. It could be too that Taurus decides, you know what, I've tried, and there's no hope trying with you, so I'm walking away. And once the Taurus does that, that this is like a moon affection, right? So they're emotionally decided and mentally decided, because we got Mercury there. You'll just see the last you'll see of them is their backs as they're walking away.
All right. Sign those divorce papers. I'm taking the dogs. All right. Might get a shoe thrown at me here.
But moon in Taurus generally is very loyal. So it has to take a lot, to get them to walk away. Yeah. I mean, you have to really push them to do it. Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah. So we look at the forecast of this year.
Yes.
And, I'm congratulating everybody that calls me for a reading, and I'm like, we made it to 2022. And everybody's like, totally. Yes. Really, a lot of people think we couldn't have gotten this far. Not that they saw the end of the world, but more so that, the world has taken quite a beating in the past couple of years, right? And there's so much BS and confusion as to, hey, we're over COVID. Omicron. Nope, not over COVID.
Yeah.
Omicron has seemed to peak and it's going down. Well, what next, right? And even if this is over, it's like, so what? Someone stopped punching you. Why are you still complaining? Oh, because I got punched and I'm bruised and I'm hit, right? So
Yeah.
it's the recovery period that's very, very tough. There is definitely going to be, so for 2022, there's not, it's not so much the PTSD that people are going to be suffering, because PTSD is for post, right? For after everything happens, you don't have time to think of it. So what I'm seeing instead is that some people will get more entrepreneurial. Geez, these hiccups. I gotta maybe try to get, like you said, that.
The wine.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah, right. I like it. Pass it through the screen, please.
That's right.
So right now we have Jupiter that is transiting through the sign of Pisces. Pisces is a higher evolution, somehow, a higher involvement. Neptune actually rules Pisces, so we could say that it's a higher involvement of Jupiter in some way. But Jupiter, in Pisces, it becomes, because Pisces is all about peace, it becomes a bit more harmonious, a bit more spiritual, because both those planets are about dogmas and how you find God, how you find your spirituality in life. And it's about romance too, because Jupiter is all about optimism and buoyancy and happiness. And what better time than when it's in Pisces, a very romantic sign. So you might find that there's more love in the air, so to speak. And it's also really good for creative endeavors, especially if you play an instrument. Possibly if you're someone that makes movies, if you're trying to film, you're going to find yourself a little bit more creative then. But it doesn't really stay in Pisces for too long. It goes pretty quickly into Aries, and Aries is a fire sign. So it goes into Aries, I think, around May. I have to look it up, sometime in early May. And it stays there until the end of October. And because they're both fire signs, I mean, I like Jupiter in Aries. It's really go-getter. It's more about, you're going to find a lot more passion, definitely a lot more confidence, and a lot more courage. So the only fear that we have there is we have to look out for people protesting a little bit better for our rights, in some ways it's good, but the Aries sometimes is going to be, Aries is the one that likes to show up for the fight most of all.
So you're saying the voting rights thing is going to bring a lot of folks out? You
know what? Yes, because it's Jupiter. And it's, Jupiter does rule politics and human rights and everything. So there could be more of that. I honestly thought that we were going to have a whole lot more protests in the summer of 2021. And that was totally quashed. So I sometimes suspect that, Washington powers that be in Washington, D.C. definitely use astrology, and they remediate before it happens. They get more people on board, or, the whole thing with, what they could do is in Pisces, maybe send out confusing information, because Pisces is a little bit about confusion too. But Aries is going to be the one that's angry about it. And it could also be where people are just like, you know what, I'm so tired, I'm just traveling, screw it. And they have the courage to travel during that period. You'll see more rewards for perseverance, a lot more people speaking up about inequities again. In your personal life, it's a good time to hit long-term strategy, because it gives you a lot of stride to go ahead with that energy, the fire energy that just could get you to move forward. So what I would say, Jupiter in Pisces, by the way, I think it's, Jupiter in Aries, to me, it could be really fun. But if you're one of those people that are anti-fun, where they have like a strict no fun policy, and believe me, there's a lot of people in the world like that. It would be a terrible time, because then you're going to see people getting up and going while, those, no fun policy people are just sitting on their mirror and just like, humbug. Why would you do that? You're doing life and I'm not. I also think too that things are going to slow down a lot in 2022, because we have a lot of these retrogrades happening. Venus right now is currently retrograde, as is Mercury, and Mercury retrogrades 4 times this year, and then we have a Mars retrograde coming up at end of October, beginning of November, that goes into next year a little bit. And when Mars retrogrades, that's going to slow down our energy. That's definitely going to slow us down quite a bit. It's like pressing on the gas. See what it did to my voice?
So I'll have some wine for you.
Yeah, thank you. Have some marijuana for me too while you're at it.
We're an illegal state up here in the Pacific Northwest. But I'm not on it tonight. I just don't do that. But hey, I'll have some pretzels.
Yeah, don't you have excess out there that you have to burn it away, right? So, so they have the slower pace because of the retrogrades, and definitely all that miscommunication that's going to come out, and all the, I just think there's going to be a whole lot more information, as an example, that items from America that are shipped to China are infected with COVID, that kind of thing. Big governmental misinformation. Honestly, I'm seeing, it's kind of sad when I'm seeing room for wars, because Jupiter in Aries will bring more.
Yeah, well, we got Russia, Ukraine, which could cause some problems across Europe.
Did you see the headlines on that Russia is going to invade Ukraine, but it's not a war? Well, isn't that right?
Like, so I was reading the Ukrainian take on it. It's like, if they cross the border and fire one shot, that's a war, buddy.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're just going to come over and seize a couple of towns with a lot of Russians in it.
The Russians that we left behind.
Yeah, it's like when we drew all the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
So my question I have for you, Cindy, is there any planetary combination or retrograde that just means things have been chaotic, it's time for a reset, and it clears out all the negative mojo, and just let's start, if I could talk, just let's things start anew? And I'm not talking like asteroid hits the Earth and wipes out everything. That's a big reset right there.
Yeah. Yes, I think that would be more Uranus and Pluto, because they're more generational, and they are longer retrogrades and more potent. So especially if it's hitting certain country charts, like the United States natal chart is undergoing a Pluto return, and that's already going to shake things up and create that great reset. But especially as it retrogrades, it actually kind of slows down that reset, or sets us back with that reset. So here we are, and everybody thinks, okay, great, it's over, and not really. And remember how I said it does it 5 times with Pluto? So I think it's like, it doesn't really end until sometime in 2023 or 2024. Interestingly, Pfizer announced that the pandemic will end sometime in the second half of 2023. Isn't it interesting that the pharmaceutical company knows that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of research on viruses and stuff, and
sure,
it with the Spanish flu was a 3-year plus ordeal too.
Yeah, but you know what? Spanish flu happened at a time where these viruses actually, they say waves, but really they travel more in swarms. So if you think of them like a swarm of bees or a swarm of insects, right? That's more how they travel. And it would make sense back then, when we didn't have the communication and the technology to get in touch with each other instantly, that it would have taken 2 or 3 years. How is it that we come up with a vaccine in less than a year, and we're 2 years into this, going into 3 years, right? We're 3 years into this now, right? We're going into 3 years, sorry. So I think that this is, because we have Pluto that's involved. Pluto is big sums of money and power. So follow the money, and it would show you to who the power players are and who's benefiting the most out of all of this. And because we have Uranus involved, so that has to do with the technology. The technology is what is guiding or misguiding some people, right? So it's not so much just the effects of what a virus would do. That would be more Pluto and Neptune, especially Neptune. A lot of people say the virus is Pluto, and yeah, if it represents death, because Pluto's death, it's really Neptune, because Neptune is about vapor. It's about things that you can't really detect. It's haziness. And it's very difficult to detect this virus, right? It's, you might have, you might test positive, but you don't really have the manifestations. It's like you could get HIV, but it doesn't mean you're going to have AIDS, right? And that's the same thing. Neptune has that quality to it where there's a certain kind of evasiveness. What we really got to look at more is, the effects of it. In other words, the after punches. And we're going to be slowing down because of these after punches. And there are still going to be groups of people that in their natal chart, so personally, so your nation is going through one thing, but personally you're going through others. So you're going to find people that were down in the dumps for when everything was great and high on the hog for, a good part of the 20 teens for a lot of the people. And they're going to find that during the 2020s, they really start to thrive. They do a lot better. So you're going to see a lot of that. And some of the people that thrive are not, some of them are going to be doing great. They're going to, the people you want to see thrive. And others are going to be the ne'er-do-goods that just want to look for a war. And they're ready to hit with whoever they could first thing. So in other words, more violent attacks coming up. That really sucks, I think. You're going to get a lot of issues about guns as well. Again, just a lot of repeated issues with all these Mercury retrogrades that, why are we arguing about the same thing? How come it's not solved? And then we have to worry about what is going to happen with the representation of our country to the rest of the world. So we're one of the most powerful countries in the world. And if we're looking, a great example, China or Russia, where, China feels empowered to dismissively say, oh, look, this virus originated in America. Or Russia just saying, oh, yeah, wink, wink, of course we're not going to war, as they have their fingers crossed behind their back, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's
very good analogy.
Yeah.
So that's all about the perceived structure of power of our country. And if your leader is weak, your country therefore is weak. I'm not saying Biden is weak. I'm just saying in generalities,
well,
right?
We have a dysfunctional federal government, which would be the response. So essentially, we're weak because our government can't govern.
Right. The infighting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's more important for them to collect their money from PACs and, what about us? What about you take this extra money and you feed the poor? I mean, there's more than enough to go around, right? We could divide the pie evenly. But if everybody's running for the biggest portion, the inequity is inevitably going to continue. And that's what we see astrologically coming up, unfortunately. There's going to be big shifts around wealth, economics, because of Pluto and stock markets. I think one thing, though, that's really going to be interesting, two things. The cryptocurrency market. And we're probably going to see more silly things come up like Dogecoin and, people minting their own. We're going to see a whole lot more disputes, especially during the Jupiter in Pisces, of the non-fungible tokens that come up in the fraud and the, just, it has to kind of clean itself up first. It's almost launched. It feels like it's launched without a plan. So genies that come out of the bottle, things that come out of Pandora's box that shouldn't be out. And there's going to be news about scandals that have to do with sex and power. So it would be interesting. And, you know, Washington, D.C., it's like the order of the day that you get, you know, alcohol and people sleeping with underage prostitutes and and
no underage prostitutes, only legal age prostitutes.
Right.
Thank you very much.
You know, those that use cocaine and, you know, to get through their day. And, you know, there's a major amount of tolerance for it as long as you don't get caught. You're not supposed to stumble out of your car totally drunk in the streets of Washington, D.C., right? You just behave, keep in the car, keep it hidden.
Have a driver.
Mhm.
Don't get pulled over.
Right? You know, don't give your laptop to some elf to fix it. Otherwise, he's going to find child porn and cocaine use on there, right? You know, like, you know, the scandal that happened with the president's son before. But so we're going to see a lot of those major situations with governments and people in power. A lot of falls from grace. We have an example, an echo of it from a pre-echo rather, with like what happened with the governor of New York, like WTF.
Oh.
You know, like a lot of people, again, in politics, you know, this sexual stuff of, you know, it's just, I guess it's one of those things that sometimes comes with the territory. And, you know, why now? And you notice there was no accusation of rape, just, oh, he touched me in a way I didn't like. And, you know, all of a sudden that's his whole empire that falls. So you're going to see more themes like that occurring, plus other themes of kind of dark horse candidates coming out of nowhere, kind of like AOC, right? She was unexpected.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, that was true.
So you're gonna get more of that, more surface allegations of, you know, they're saying now a lot of these politicians have been bought into place. So I forgot the name of the governor or the mayor of San Francisco, and the DA in Philly, and I think it was like the DA in Chicago, where they're starting to tie them to Soros money and say, you see how money is buying power and the havoc it's wreaking. So we're going to get more of.
I mean, that's any billionaire.
Yeah, I guess though, you know, you could get. It's the reason they get them into power, you know.
Yeah,
so
it's whoever has the most money wins.
Yeah, but oh yeah, for sure, money buys power, but it's about the chaos that those policies bring with those people. So we would hear say, I think in San Francisco and Philadelphia, they're letting more people out of mental health care, and there they are roaming the streets, bringing issues to people. Kim Fox, for instance, they're saying is letting more people out of bail a lot easier, or no bail. So people that, you know, they might have committed grand larceny, but they're not going to jail. They're just letting be back out on the streets. So that kind of chaos, that kind of economic imbalance that starts to occur, making people afraid, essentially, to go out. So the virus was bad enough, right, to keep people, some people scared, and others are like, I'm going to go out. But remember, I mentioned the issue about guns coming up again, safety and protests. You know, I don't know. When the protests were going on in 2020, I didn't go out. It was, you know, why go out in a time like that? It's, you know, if there's more people shooting, I don't know how it's like in, you know, some of the safer cities, but you know, I think Philly and Chicago got a lot more crazy with guns. And I could tell you New York City definitely got a lot more crazy. I mean, if in Times Square, people are shooting randomly. So this all has to do with all these crazy planets hitting major angles in, not just the angles, but more so like the Pluto retrograde, the Pluto return, the imbalances of power. So the eclipses, right? So we have our eclipses that are tied to destiny, right? They're fated events, but they could bring major turning points in people's lives, especially if they hit somewhere major. Now, these turning points can be really, really good. It could be the breakthrough. It could be, that you're, like, for instance, with your show, that that you keep the show going and all of a sudden you get, a major guest on that really elevates the status of your show. Or it could be a trigger topic that really elevates the status of your show, that kind of thing. If there was an eclipse that really hit an area, like say an eclipse hit Mercury or the sun in your chart, and that would be a breakthrough, or it could be a breakdown, the new beginning, a new ending, turning point. So if it's a lunar eclipse, it would be very revealing. It's one of those, it would be where things become a whole lot more clear finally. If it's a solar eclipse, it's where things that were happening behind your back all of a sudden start to reveal themselves without realizing it. Like, someone is trying to plot against you and they think the whole time it's secret. During the eclipse, if it hits the right place in your chart, it would actually be revealed before your very eyes. It's kind of spooky how that happens. I mean, you could rely on an eclipse for that. It could also signify how, because the moon is all about fertility, so it could affect, we're looking at, I think this is fertility of a nation, for instance, if it hits on the birth chart. Interestingly enough, America did have that great eclipse that went over America in 2017. And interestingly enough, there had been the fertility rate, or people having kids, in other words, started around that time to stabilize, meaning it's not going up, it's not going down, it's just kind of stationary, which is not good economically, right? And now we're starting to see effects of that even more, where less people are having kids. And if your nation is undergoing a shrinking population, your nation kind of gets weaker. And eclipses could bring that too. So we really have to be careful with that, especially since it's occurring on the Taurus Scorpio axis. Scorpio is about sex. So, we're bringing sex into fertility, obviously. Taurus is about wanting to have babies. So when we're having this axis, this pull of powers there, it really ends up that usually there's going to be a major change of population again. Birth population, not necessarily death population. So, and having to pay the piper. So if we screwed over a nation in the past, watch out. I don't know if I see anything coming out of Afghanistan necessarily, because it's been, so hard hit, but we could look at a situation like Syria and the karmic implications of that, because the way that the chart, the planets fall in the chart for Syria, and looking at it for America and seeing where Neptune is in the chart, and Neptune is drugs, among other things. We're going to see, believe it or not, a major outflow of drugs from a place like Syria. So, and that's like a karmic impact on those countries that were involved in hitting Syria.
Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of scary. We could also expect just restructure overall. And what's really funny is how this new kick on leaving the planet, and let's the new idea, like from Elon Musk, of if you want our species to survive, have more and more kids as possible. But our planet apparently is already as overpopulated, and we're spinning out of control with climate. Oh, that's another thing I'm going to touch on in a bit. But they're looking to leave this planet. What's that all about, right? And
right.
So, we're going to see major breakthroughs when it comes to, we're going to Mars. Oh yeah, we already have a whole city there. Like what in 1 year, like you go to another planet, you have like a whole colony and a city set up, like come on. But that is going to be revealed, maybe that, more things have been going on than they have shared with us. I don't know if people are going to really care so much, because back at home we have that climate change going on, and we're definitely going to see a lot more severity coming up and a lot more unpredictability. That's the saddest thing. That's the thing, I think, that because you can't really run away from that. I think you guys have experienced that in the Pacific Northwest, right, Jake?
Sorry, I was multitasking on a side chat.
That's okay. See what Mercury retrograde does? People don't pay attention. So.
But we have had chaos up here.
Yeah.
Is there still? Wait, you're in Oregon or in Washington?
Washington. Yeah.
So in Portland, is that where they're still having, or is it Seattle where they're still having, like not only major protests, but little like sections of the city that have been still overtaken and self-ruled or whatever?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it, depending on the news you watch, I'll just leave it that way. There was the autonomous zone, which was a little crazy, I will say. And this was in Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill is the gay neighborhood of Seattle. And it did get shut down. It wasn't a violent shutdown, but you would have the anarchists. I mean, it's the Pacific Northwest. We have a lot of anarchists up here. It's the parallel, right? We have a lot of anarchists, and then we have a lot of white supremacist nationalists too. So you get a lot on either side here, but it did get shut down. No one died. There was someone, there was some gang activity. One person got shot and died in the zone. But it was gang activity. They weren't living in the zone. So they just came through. But that got shut down a long time ago. And cleared out and everything like that. Portland, I think, has had more violent problems than Seattle did. But we've had all sorts of things have come out on both sides, with the cops antagonizing and creating the problem. And of course, the crazy rioters doing the same thing. It's just the crazy rioters, didn't have tear gas to throw back, kind of thing.
That's unfortunate.
So, yeah. But there are the cases. This is well documented in Seattle. You would have undercover cops or off-duty cops that would plow into the protesters with their cars.
Jesus.
Yeah. And those cops were arrested finally. I don't know if it made the national news, made the Seattle Times.
I didn't hear about that. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought they were I heard about individuals doing it, but I didn't know the police were doing it.
Yeah, it turned out a couple of them were undercover cops. Well, I shouldn't say off-duty cops, and then they got out of cars and ran back to their crew and their. It's just, you can't really get away with that with cameras everywhere and identity detection stuff anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, we had problems like that. I think Portland has been worse. But the other thing to know is it wasn't the entire city. It was usually a few blocks here and there. Seattle was mainly down by the federal courthouse and police station. Makes sense, right? Because it's the feds and the cops. And it would be confined to an area like that. Now, the original riots after George Floyd, that was the shopping area. That was pretty scary. But it wasn't the whole city at the same time too. Just like all of Portland is confined to a 4 to 6 block area too. But I think a lot of that's cleared up now too.
Wow.
But yeah, we had chaos. I think other cities had it worse. They always look to us in the Pacific Northwest all the time. Just like, I think there's other cities that had worse problems.
Oh yeah, I think like in Philadelphia, it was more spread out. In places in New Jersey, it was more spread
I don't know. We don't get much East Coast news on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So I know New York City had some problems. They had problems with people getting run down by cars too in New York.
I believe it. I didn't see it reported, but I know more and more people are getting pushed onto the train tracks just randomly.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that. Was a hate crime in New York City, though.
But I mean, these are like random hate events. So
yeah, exactly.
There's some,
yeah.
It could be like well, it's a hate crime because the person happened to be Asian, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also, what if the person was like a white woman,
Mm-hmm.
or another black male, for instance, that got pushed on.
Oh, I
And
didn't. Okay.
yeah, no, so these are like totally random events that are, again,
Yeah.
it's about the homeless and,
Mhm.
the people that were supposed to be in asylum, I guess, release of people from Rikers Island, big jail
Mm-hmm.
out there. And,
Yeah. I
just,
yeah, I think just everyone's on edge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think the media is helping anyone because this kind of drama that it creates makes people tune in. So as Rudy says, this isn't a political show, and we try not to keep it political. And we try not to do a political show,
I'm not
but
getting political.
it's
It's ubiquitous.
yeah.
I think.
I think everyone's negative emotions have been jacked up with the anxiety of the pandemic, and the need to get viewers by sensationalizing things that don't need to be sensationalized.
Right. Right. You've got more commentary than facts going on.
Yeah. And astrologically, the explanation is because of Pluto, the planet of rebirth, among other things, hitting the exact position where it was. It's its return in its natal chart. I mean, that was like 248 years ago, right? That it was there. It takes 248 years to get back to the same spot where it was, to complete its orbit. So more civil unrest, more international friction, more money struggles, authority issues. So I think too, though, there is a lot of people who, again, will benefit. So those of you who have had it pretty rough in the 20 teens, you're going to be seeing a much happier 2020.
Yay!
Yay!
All righty. Maybe a little more astrology.
Well, see, this is how it plays out, because if we're just looking at it where, if we do the cookbook thing where Pluto equals this and it hits, another Pluto, and, but it's the manifestation of it. And inevitably, because Pluto is about power and authority, we are going to be talking about government. Money is also power and authority. Pluto's money. So it is going to be economically affecting everybody and so tied in with the politics. This is how we see it manifest. The real interesting thing too that we see going on is the transgender issues. And again, Pluto making the major changes with that. So that's going to be another big issue coming up of identity with not just gender, but I think it's probably going to come up more with you're not Puerto Rican, but you identify as Puerto Rican. You're not Black, but you identify as Black. You're not whatever, you know what I mean? People that feel like, that's their identity, even though they weren't born into it. If someone could be, born male, but their identity is female, or vice versa, well, why can't somebody feel that they're born into a certain ethnicity, even if they're not, or a certain race, even if they're not? So we're going to get a lot more of those issues too.
Oh boy.
Fair is fair. Right?
Absolutely. Excuse me. And how will COVID play out? Chet in the chat room is asking.
We're still going to have COVID.
Yeah.
That Pluto return is going to guarantee it. And if it's not really COVID, it's, you can't really see the virus, right? You can only see how it affects people. Right. And who benefits from it, like the monetary gain from that, right? And the deals that are made behind closed doors for it. So, we're still gonna see, the pandemic alive and well, unfortunately, during the rest of this year.
I think the term is it's endemic. It's here to stay.
Well, it's a virus, so it's never going to go away.
True.
One thing I try to tap into, but it's very hard because I'm not a virus, but I tried to tap into the consciousness of the virus. And it's like, you know, it's so tiny that it's very hard to like pull your consciousness down to like, what are they thinking? Because it's just, you know, it's smaller than a pinhead, right? Smaller. You need a electron microscope, I think, to see it. So it's interesting. I really wonder what the consciousness of this COVID virus feels, if it's like feeling like it's being exploited, or if it's really having its like best days of, you know, if it's having a dynasty, so to speak. You know, so
and growing and morphing into different shapes and variations.
Exactly. So how is this being used, and how does it feel like if it's being mixed with other viruses? You know, what was the one when it mixed with flu? What were they calling it?
Flurona.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
because
kidding.
you can have both. You can have both at the same time. They have people that are infected with both.
Yeah. So
you know, it's kind of interesting. Last year, we heard about the flu, not being as rampant. Of course, makes sense, right? Everyone's walking around with a mask on and staying 6 feet apart and staying out in public.
Staying home, yeah.
But it was actually one of the most lethal years for the flu ever. There were 700,000 people that were hospitalized with it, and over 60,000 died.
Last year?
Yeah, last year. But you don't hear about it because, I mean, the numbers were nothing compared to COVID, right? But it was one of the most lethal flus last year.
I see. The information you got was different from what I saw in the news, and it was like at its lowest point ever, and they think it's because social distancing. Oh, so you're talking about the virulence or the effect of it. I see what you mean.
The mortality of it. So it didn't hit as many people, because usually it's well over 1 million people that get hospitalized with the flu a year, well over. But last year was about 700,000 that required hospitalization, and 60,000 of those people died.
I can see that, especially if they can't get into the hospital because of Corona.
You know, that's very true. Very true.
Yeah. And I think less people were getting inoculated for the flu virus last year too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything was for the flu related to the flu was down. I'm not sure when it came, what the pneumonia numbers were. No one really talked about that either. Kind of got, but I'll go out to the CDC. I'll do a little fact checking, see what we've got. They've got all the data.
Yeah, I think it's, I remember reading that it was lower, and they thought it was because of social distancing and the masks, but that once you take it off, because your body has not been exposed to these viruses in low doses,
you don't build up the resistance.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't build up the resistance, and then you
the other thing
get
that
like a higher volume.
Yeah, and the other thing that compounded that is for the flu vaccine in 2020. And that's the year I'm talking about, not 2021 with the flu, but 2020 with the flu. They got it wrong. You know how they take a guess at which strain that they'll use for the vaccine? Well, they got it wrong in 2020 as well.
Jeez.
So it was a different strain of the flu that was out there.
That happens a lot because they always use the previous year's strains to determine which ones to make the vaccines for, right?
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, hygiene, very important.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Hygiene.
Uh-oh. Augie, you want to say hi on screen? Come here, babe. You want to say hi to Jake? Want to say hi to Cindy? Are you going to be shy? I don't have any snacks. Augie came in. That's well.
Yeah. We always have to take a doggy break whenever one of our dogs comes in. Like last time I did a show, I had all 3 puppies on there. For Mystic Moon, I brought in all 3 puppies.
You have to create like Instagram and Twitter pages for your dogs. So that
I gotta tell you, that social media, it's such a time suck. I'm avoiding keeping the puppies on the social media, or putting them on the social media. On too much social media. I'm not going to do an Insta dog. But so Cindy,
Yes.
though, with this upcoming year, and with the craziness of all the retrogrades, I mean, is there any kind of positive trend? I mean, everyone
Oh
could
yeah.
use a little good news after the
So
past couple of years.
I I really think that this is going to hurt a lot of people up until the late 2020s. But as far as this year, we're going to see a lot more fantastical releases out of Hollywood where people are just going to finally learn. Like, I mean, if there's anywhere that could be innovative with creative, right, it would be Hollywood,
Mhm.
because they had a certain formula that they were doing, and all of a sudden, that's like totally disrailed. So I think that, during times that things are awful, right, artists become more creative. When you're not having, there's no jobs, or there's nowhere to really be able to go to work. Sometimes, it's the times of darkness that really bring the time of more brightness and, channeling of this emotional energy through music, through movies, through design, through fashion. You're going to see a lot of people coming out, like, fashion might be less, less, what do you call it? Prudish and
Mhm.
more
Oh yeah.
peacocking.
Mhm.
Yeah. Brighter colors are definitely going to come in a lot more into play, into 2022 to help uplift people's spirits. People that didn't stand a chance when the economy was running like pre-pandemic are finally going to have a chance to come out and really make money, establish themselves in life, and to finally be, where they could only have dreamed to have been before, uh, like that it wouldn't have happened without this pandemic.
Mhm.
So those are the feel good, the happy stories as well. Some coming together of people that just
Mhm.
want to organize a lot more semblance to reactions, um, and to how we manage our cities is going to be coming up as well.
Mhm.
So, for instance, like, uh, with South Florida, where we're going to have more swelling of the oceans and
Mm.
more, occupying of, just the hurricanes and the storms that come in, and
Yep.
possibly the major floods, and people, instead of reacting helpless, are actually going to come together. And yeah, of course, there's going to be some chaos, but more stories of people coming in to help each other.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of that come about, and more. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but more driverless vehicles too.
Yeah. That's one where I'm kind of like, I don't like to drive because of everyone else on the road, but just like then you got a computer driving and you still have the people in the car that have to take control of it if something goes wrong.
Yeah, it's, I don't. I guess it would be good for something like shipping and the supply chain.
Mhm.
Because if there's not enough drivers, or if they're not, I don't know what's really the truth is with the supply chain, but at least maybe it could help take care of that in some ways.
Mhm.
I don't know. Supply chain is going to continue to be affected, but that's also a good thing in some ways, because then it forces us to be more resourceful
Mm.
with local, local sources of things.
Yeah. I would agree with
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
It would be nice if we still made stuff closer to home, even though I get because of pricing, it's much cheaper to have things made overseas than some stuff in the United States.
well, the inflation is going to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And um, I think there's going to be stronger military might too, to help try to bring up our country's strength. But I mean, look, I can't sugarcoat this.
Mhm.
If it's bad, it's going to be bad. It's better than saying, "Hey, everything's going to be great, and you could go out and party and go to the beach and take your masks off and all this." I mean, it would be reckless to kind of, yeah. So the news sounds bad, and it definitely is bad. But at the same time, forewarned is, you're more prepared. You're gonna
forearmed. Forewarned is forearmed.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
I totally forgot that word. Thanks for filling it in. Having a Mercury retrograde moment there.
I was in the military. That's what we always use. Forewarned is forearmed.
Knowledge is
So-
power. Is this a school rock? Yeah.
I'm telling you. I don't get me started on education.
Oh, yeah.
Changes, by the way, with the Jupiter in Aries, definitely changes in education with the structure of our educational curriculums, for sure.
Mhm.
Major changes coming up with that.
Yeah. Any foresight into what it could be?
Yes, a lot more online.
Uh-huh.
I do see that by the early 2030s, that even a lot of medical schools are going to be offered online fully.
Oh, I kind of want the doctors in training to be with people fiddling on body parts and stuff.
You would like that, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just like whenever I go to the doctor and stuff, I don't want to see like the 28-year-old. I want to see like the 68-year-old, you know?
Well, the 28-year-old might have a little bit more fresh knowledge coming out of college, right? Then the 68-year-old is going to be stodgy and stuck in their ways, right? But I guess if they're in a university, they might have a bit more, put it this way, the 68-year-old is going to either have to acquiesce to the new systems. So there's like, that's the other thing, like the education affects how our healthcare as well. So we're going to start seeing more health deserts in poor areas as these big, huge medical centers are coming up.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the Jupiter placements as well. But more so, Jupiter would affect the education of the future doctors. So, if you came out of medical school in 1969, you're as much knowledge as you have, you're going to become obsolete.
Yeah.
Unless you join the parade.
Well, so when I'm talking about the reason why the 68-year-old is because of all the experience.
Yeah.
Because they've seen a lot.
But it doesn't matter if the decision management systems are what determine diagnosis and not the doctor's sense. Not right. In other words, more doctors, less practitioners.
Got it.
Yeah.
So kind of at the point. Sorry.
Oh no, so that's one of the major things I see changing in education of more online, instructions where, even universities are going to start to cash in on that. Now, one thing I can't see is where the student debt crisis is going. And I'm kind of on the fence of thinking, some of this might erode, but I just can't see that. I think that, that's going to be for another year coming up. That is something I would really, honestly, I'm even looking at it like, I don't have student debt, thank goodness, myself, but I'm just looking at it, looking for the people that we're going to be experiencing it. And, I would think it would cause a lot of irritation for those who have been doing the right thing and paying off, diligently paying like they should. Versus, oh, by the way, the new people get their education written off. It's like, well, what about the money I paid? Do I get that back?
Yeah, that's not fair. No,
it's not.
Well, but it's got to start somewhere. So it's got to happen.
How about lowering tuitions?
There you go. Perfect. Yes.
So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I was going to say, even though I went to grad school in the early 2000s and I paid for, I did get student loans for it, but I only took it for tuition kind of thing. So I got out and I went to business school. So, like there's no scholarships for business school. Okay. And they charge you a lot more for it too. Yeah. But the pricing on tuition now, especially at the graduate school level, it's like, wow.
It's criminal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Exactly. Just stupid insane.
And I went to a private school for business school too. So you were paying, a lot more than But even the public school tuitions are like, for graduate school, are on par with private schools.
Yeah. It's absolutely wild.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be that much. And then on top of that, it's not like you get the kind of professors or the positions for the professors that they used to have. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
getting these untenured
Mm-hmm.
people that are literally working minimum wage.
Yeah, associate professors,
Yes.
adjunct professors,
assistant,
yeah.
adjuncts. Those are the ones that are, just overworked and underpaid for a position that seems prestigious, but they're creating now, in the dozens. And I mean, there's going to be some blowback because of that. So we're going to see that. I have to look and see when that happens, but that's more, that's going to definitely be some role with Jupiter hitting in the chart, possibly with Pluto. And the other thing I'm seeing, like in the after 2024, these is mega lotteries coming up, where more people like, okay, it's fine. You hear someone winning, 34 million or the 134 million jackpot, right? Where these are going to be like even bigger amounts, closer to the billions. It's going to be a little bit obscene, honestly, when it comes to the lottery coming in the future. And that's because Jupiter and Pluto are going to be crossing in a way that definitely brings a lot of bounty and a lot of money, but also a lot of obscenity with it.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot more mega jackpots.
I didn't know that. I don't play the lotto, so. But
I studied economics, so it's kind of interesting to see the data trends on when it comes to lottos. It's called the lotto is considered a poor man's tax. Because a lot of,
I could see that.
Yeah, because if you got money, you don't really think about this, but if you need money, this is a gamble you'll play. And when you look at how much money is paid into the system versus how much they paid out, they're making out in the end. And then throw on the taxes that you have to pay on that big lump sum too.
And don't most people that strike it big on the lottery also spend all their money within 5 years and end up bankrupt or, just as bad as they were before they won?
The research into it says the ones that crash out, those are the ones you hear about, but there's plenty of folks that keep their money too.
Oh, okay, good for them.
Yeah. So it just depends on who you get. Kind of like, just like everything.
May you win the lotto.
So. Yeah, but a lot of folks with the mega jackpot winners, a lot of them, first thing they do is go get a lawyer.
Oh yeah, that's like, you have to. I think, isn't that a process that's set up in place where as soon as you win, they contact you and you get to decide if you show your face or not and your name?
Yeah. Part of it does the requirements to retrieve the winnings, but some states don't do it. So you can remain anonymous until you claim, and even if you claim, you could be anonymous, but it depends on the state. Some of them want to use you for publicity. But a lot of folks, like there was the family that won the 500 million jackpot. They could stay anonymous. They got a lawyer. They worked out their trust because you have a year to claim it. And they went nearly up to the year before they claimed it. And they set up a trust and all that stuff before they did it. And that was pretty much because everyone's going to sue them under the sun.
Yeah. I knew someone when I was in high school, one of the, she was kind of one of the administrators, won the $2 million lottery. And it was interesting seeing the changes in that person. Because of course they're gleeful at the beginning, and then all of a sudden they became so super bitter and so super angry. And that was because so many people were like, hey, you got money and I need money. And they just felt like, that's all they were worth. Yeah. And finally what her and her family did, and this was like, they took a big chunk of the family, like sisters and cousins and nieces and nephews, and they moved to another state and they were so happy. So I mean, it's kind of crazy that, how it could change your life in that way.
Mhm.
But I'm seeing definitely a lot more mega jackpots than that. Like I said, obscene amounts, obscene reactions to.
Mhm.
So, do we have any? I don't see any questions on Spreaker. Do we have any from the audience?
Not.
No.
No, we're good on Facebook as well.
I guess Emilio ran out of jokes, so now I was here unboxing a new tarot deck called, what is it called? Wanderer's Tarot. Whoop, let me see if I can.
Oh, can't see. It's black with white writing.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Nice.
Got some interesting things.
Yeah, I did a Kickstarter. I backed a gold and platinum tarot set, which is really pretty. And then I got a
Ooh.
different oracle, like a Halloween. Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Baphomet.
that's the devil.
Yeah.
It's nice. Let me see if I got my stuff handy.
And you've got moon and stars and knives. It should be interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, Cindy, do you do a lot of tarot readings still or no?
Yes, I do.
Cool.
I
Very
mix
cool.
astrology with tarot together most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
because those are really two powerful forces. Like one is, it's just two different tools. And if you layer them together, you get a much more robust answer.
Got
So
it.
I like
Makes
to
sense.
put them together. Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes I use the pendulum with it.
So these are the oracle cards, the tarot cards in the back. I got to dig for them, but so I've got Halloween oracle cards. I can open
Oh,
up and show you some stuff.
neat.
And then I like this set. This is the Season of the Witch
Ooh,
Wow.
oracle, Samhain, Samhain, I guess is the proper way to say it.
awesome. Yeah.
Haven't used them yet. And I got another set of it too. But it's in the back. I have to dig for it.
Cindy, do you have a favorite deck or anything?
Believe it or not, one of my favorite type of decks to use are those little postage stamp size decks.
Oh,
Oh,
Interesting. Okay.
what card
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
cool looking, Jake.
that's Death.
Death. Oh, wow. Oh, I see it. The skull. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
got the lights. I could probably. It's just with my background.
Not
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh.
And the reason I like the postage size type of tarot decks is because I could carry them with me easily without it
Mhm.
taking too much space or being heavy. And sometimes it just happens, like, that I just, I run into transactions, so to speak. Like, people get chatty. They ask, what do you do? I tell them I'm a professional astrologer or a professional reader. And, some of them that are interested, I'm like, well, I have my cards with me right now. And they get delighted by seeing the postage size, like, wow, how convenient is that? You don't have to carry these big, and it doesn't require a lot of real estate on the table.
Right. True.
So I do also like John Holland's art. And he has like really colorful, cheerful type of colors. And I also really enjoy, it's like round tarot cards, Tarot of the Cloisters.
Okay.
And I think they're out of print, except there might be some pirate prints out there. And those are really cool because the roundness, you don't have to. What card is that, Jake?
This is from the Samhain, the Season of the Witch
Samhain.
Oracle.
Mhm.
It's Oracle cards, so it's Samhain. Sorry. This is
That's okay.
apples. It's apples. They've got different things. Like this is Healer.
Oh,
Ooh.
I see.
Oh, that's freaky looking. I like
Yeah.
It's a
it.
very moody looking.
Yeah, it's just Oracle cards. I mean, with tarot cards, you have like swords but with Oracle cards, they follow their own kind of, like, this is poisons and spells, which does not appear in tarot whatsoever.
No, you don't get suits.
Yeah, you don't get
the
suits, but it's got this nice blood red metallic.
It's beautiful.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're really nice. And I got another set that's pretty wicked too, but like I said, I won't be able to dig it out.
That's okay.
But one day
So-
we will. I'll do it. It's got this crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. It's got an astrological wheel, and with all the houses, and you have dice, and you roll it on it, and the dice.
Those are nice.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, yeah, I got one of those. I've been meaning to use it.
Oh, cool.
But I have never, because of the pandemic here, I haven't been able to get together with anyone to try it out.
You could use those with runes too.
Oh, I got runes.
The runes. Yeah.
I got 4 sets of runes. I love the runes. Really, we should
Wow.
do a divination episode.
Absolutely.
But yes, I still do offer readings full-time on the phone.
Cool.
Or by Skype. And I could be reached at www.kansascityastrology.com, and you could book online at your convenience. And if the time and dates that you find aren't available, just join the wait list, and I'll do my best to get you in ASAP.
Nice.
Wonderful. Well, wow, it is that time. Thank you so much, Cindy. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back on. This was really nice chatting.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jake, for arranging the chats for people to come in. I really love the questions because I think it keeps things, varied and thoughtful.
Yes. Yeah. And comes at things from different angles as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So enjoy the rest of your Mercury retrograde until February 3rd. And,
Ooh, thank
you. Guys
you.
are in the clear.
And yeah, we will we'll schedule our divination show here shortly.
Yeah, I'll probably get a webcam and rig it over my desk so we can.
You know what? That. You should do like a how-to, Jake, on how to rig a how to rig a cam on top of a desk like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was tricky for me to figure out. Like, I think I had I was able to rig it, but I got my ideas from these the shows, like the little online, not the shows, but like these little how-to videos on how to cook. And they, how the camera is like right above the pan and everything. So yeah, I just looked at behind the scenes with that, and it was so elaborate, but I got ideas from that. So you don't need it so elaborate when you're using cards. So it'd be neat if you could show.
I mean, I would still go out to YouTube to find that. How do I rig a camera up? That's all I do. I'm like, okay, do I have a little clampy, springy thing with one of these universal joint things on the head? Okay, we're good.
Probably, yeah.
If you could get like a picture-in-picture, because people want to see your face as you're looking at the cards as well, just to see what your reactions are.
Oh yeah. That makes
can
it
be
more
done.
Complicated. It can be done.
Yeah.
I know how to do it in software other than Zoom.
Okay.
That
may have to be a pre-recorded show.
Oh no, we should do it live. We should
do it live. Okay.
We'll do it live, and we'll be like, okay, here we go. And I'll probably use one of the other ones, and we'll probably use the so you have to be on, Cindy, so I can do that thing with the dice in the astrological week.
Okay.
So yeah, so we'll book that
Very
one.
cool.
I know it's right there, but in the back of that.
Okay.
Yes,
I've got runes and things too. So yeah.
I got runes. We could just make it all sorts of divination. Give everyone half an hour for the different type of divination.
Sure.
That means I have to study. This will be like with the book.
Wait a minute. Wait, I gotta look this up. Yeah.
It's upside down. I'm screwed. Okay. It's 7 of Swords upside down. That's not good.
Well,
I know that one.
The only thing is, Jake, divination is a lot intuition.
Then I shouldn't be doing this.
Well, yeah.
No, but you know what? I've been to readers that use their little white book, and it looks very amateurish at first, but sometimes they use it as their guide, and they
see how what you're feeling correlates with what The book
Yeah.
tells you, yeah.
And it does actually, I've gotten good readings that way too. It just doesn't look professional. That's the only thing. But if you get past that, it's all about the message.
Okay.
So.
Well, it could be like this. I will just be the card and dice mule. And then you guys can interpret and give the reading.
There you go. Woo!
Problem solved. Okay.
Problem solved.
Okay. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the show.
Yes, it does. I haven't booked next week yet, but I do have a couple of good guests, more good guests lined up. So it's just a matter of getting them scheduled. And as always, Cindy is welcome back anytime. And we'll even let Jake come back.
Okay.
Deal.
If anything, just turn the knobs in the studio.
Right.
I like it.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. And hey, hit the like and follow buttons if you liked us and you want to follow us. And I will have the video up on a YouTube channel shortly. So it's all good. Everyone have a great week and be careful in retrograde.
Yes. Pay attention while driving, people.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.